if you want to, before we start, if anyone has any walk-ins, just let them know to bring.
Testing. Can you hear me? No? Testing, testing.
Oh, yeah, it works.
It's not working. They can't hear it. Can you hear? Oh, you can hear. All right, everybody, please start taking your seats. I don't think this is on. Is it? Can you guys hear? Better. Can everyone hear in the back? Okay. So everybody, I want to welcome everybody to the Citrus County Delegation meeting. We are going to officially call this meeting to order. To start off, I'd ask everybody to stand with Representative J.J. Grow giving the invocation, and then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Blaise. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless this beautiful day. We ask that you bless the people that are here today representing a lot of love in our county. We ask that you bless those men and women who are serving our country overseas and at home. We ask that you bless and watch over each of the family members represented here today. We ask that you bless our country, our state, and our county. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, just want to recognize we have some elected officials in the room. If I forget to announce anyone, just please come up to the front, give the information to our aides, and we'll get you announced. So actually, before we do that, let's announce our staff. You want to announce your staff first?
Sure. Of course, we have Don Faraday, my district aide, which you guys know, and then Michael Schenk, who's my legislative aide.
And to my left, your right, closest to you, we have Hannah Christian, who is does our legislative, the bills. Right behind her is Jordan Ivey, who does our scheduling and our appropriations, and the person who holds down the fort, Ms. Arioro. Yoro, right? Yeah. What I'm get too many Aubreys in my phone. Who takes care of all the constituent services. Guys, thank you for all that you do. So the elected officials that we have in attendance right now, we have County Commissioner Janet Barrack. Is it Barrack or Brock? Barrack, okay. Commissioner Holly Davis. Commissioner Rebecca Bays. We have School Board Member Sandy Counts. Miss Sandy. School Board Member Doug Dodd. Doug? They're right next to each other. Don't talk to each other. Sunshine violation. We have Superintendent Scott Hebert. Don't talk to each other. School board. Sunshine violation. Mayor of Inverness, Bob Plaisted. Did I pronounce that right, Bob? Plaisted, yes. and Inverness City Council member Gene Davis. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Tom Craig is here. City Council. Okay, do you want to do the sheriff?
Sheriff Dave Vincent. Oh, okay. Hello.
All right.
Did we miss anyone? Did we call your name, Eric? Yeah, we saw her
We
in the
got
back.
that.
Thank you, Tracy.
And congratulations, Sheriff, on the election. Okay, so we're going to start going into some public hearings. We're going to, but before that, we are going to hear a local bill. It's an act relating to Citrus County specifying the rights of certain employees and appointees of the Citrus County Sheriff. So just so everyone knows how we're going to do this is I'm going to recognize Representative J.J. Grow, who, again, congratulations on getting elected. It's an honor. You have big shoes to fill with Ralph Masulo, who was just a dear friend. We should all be praying for Ralph these days. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce J.J. Grow to introduce the bill. He's going to explain the bill, and then after that, there's going to be questions from anyone up here, just me, if there's any questions about the bill. So I may ask him a couple questions depending upon what the bill is. And then we're going to open it up to any comments from the floor, if anybody has any comments about the proposed bill. Once that is done, we're going to vote on the proposed bill. This then proposed bill will be filed as a bill up in Tallahassee, and it's a local bill. So just so everyone understands, a local bill, anything that is called a local bill is specific to only Citrus County. So this proposed bill, if passed here in the delegation, will then be filed up in Tallahassee in the House of Representatives, and it will go through the regular committee process. Once it goes through committee process, it will then be voted on by the full House, and then it will be sent over to the Senate for a vote. And should that pass, it'll then be onto the governor's desk. So with that, I'd like to recognize Representative J.J. Grow to introduce the local bill.
Thank you, Senator. So it came to my attention right after I was elected, a bill that existed from 2001. And when I spent some time on this bill and looked at it and had conversations with Sheriff Vincent, it was obvious that the bill was very outdated. It doesn't refer to correct positions within the Sheriff's Department. The other item about this bill is it really doesn't allow the sheriff to come in and make the changes after being elected that the sheriff might want to make. There are some things in here that require a timeline before the sheriff can make decisions on personnel. The other issue, and I'd like to ask, well, Sheriff Vincent's going to come up and talk about it, but a lot of the statutes that are in here were already put in Florida statutes to protect sworn officers. So we would not want the issue where a sheriff gets elected and perhaps they think a sworn officer was campaigning against them and they would take action. They're protected against that in Florida statute, so that would not be the case. So given the fact that FSA and the Florida statute now already protects what this was trying to do, we thought the best thing to do was to take the bill off the books, if you will, which is one of our jobs as legislators is to look at bills that are out there that currently don't make sense and remove them. So that's it. Don, it's been in the paper, right, for the timeline required 2 different times. So I would open it up. Sheriff Vincent, if you can come forward and discuss it, I would appreciate it.
Let's go. Hold on, let's make sure we go through the process. So I do not have any questions, so we'll go into any comments. Sheriff, you are recognized.
Good morning, Senator, Representative. I appreciate the time and taking the time to actually look at this House bill. It was created in 2001, and like you stated earlier, it was a House bill that was created under the structure of the Sheriff's Office at the time. That structure has changed dramatically. Positions have changed. And in addition to that, the Florida statute, Statute 30, it governs the Sheriff's powers and authorities, does protect classes of employees in the sheriff's office from a lot of the things that I think this House bill was created to do. So if you look at Statute 30 in Florida statutes, protection from employees under the direction of the sheriff, after an election, they have career service boards. We have policies in place to protect employees from all of those actions. The biggest hamstring that I saw in this bill, as a newly elected sheriff, you're coming in and not really able to appoint your own command structure there. And for the first 6 months, you're essentially stuck with the previous administration's employees to a certain level. There is only one level in Florida statute currently that's not protected, and it's the highest ranking law enforcement official other than the sheriff within a sheriff's department. That's the only person that's not protected with a newly elected sheriff in a sheriff's office. So usually that's a chief deputy, an undersheriff, someone that holds that ranking position. Every other employee is protected by statute. It's protected in our policies at the sheriff's office. We have career service appeal boards if any action were to ever be taken against an employee like that. So there's a lot of safeguards included within our own agency that protects our employees from that. So I looked at this House bill. It was new to me as a newly elected sheriff when I read that, and I understood, probably in 2001 when that was written, looking at the positions it was trying to protect. We just don't look like that today here in 2025. So I thought it was a good point to try to repeal that House bill and start with a clean slate. It's not going to help me at all, but I'm thinking forward for the next person that has the opportunity to become the next sheriff, the 14th
In 30
sheriff.
years, right, Sheriff?
30 years, yeah, 30 years from now. But it'll help that next person and hopefully have a better transition for that person than what I've experienced. So,
Did I just hear Representative J.J. Grow lobby for the sheriff? Is it going to be Sheriff Grow in 30 years? Is that what it is? So.
All right. So, but that's all I had. Comments on that. I think we're in a good spot when it comes to our state statutes that protect our employees, as well as our internal policy that protects employees. But it just, oh, thanks, Director DeCarlo. Yeah, so. They're throwing papers at me. I don't know what it says, but we'll just roll with it. But yeah, so that's my position on that. I'm just really looking out for the next man or woman that takes my position, that they'll have a better go at it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Appreciate it, Sheriff. Any other public testimony regarding the local bill? Any other public testimony? Showing none. Representative Grow, you are recognized to close on your local bill.
I'll waive close. I would like to suggest that we go ahead and get rid of House Bill 629.
Okay, so closing on the bill, the question now occurs on adopting and approving the local bill in front of us. So we are going to do a roll call. Representative Grow, yay or nay?
Yay.
Chair Ingoglia, yay. Show the local bill passed and to be filed with the House of Representatives. Okay, let's, one thing I just want to let everyone know, if you haven't known, yesterday Representative Grow and I filed a bill in the House of Representatives. I was the Senate sponsor. He is the House sponsor. We have a very large veterans community, especially here in Citrus County. So the bill we proposed yesterday, and we hope this is a slam dunk in the legislature. We hope it moves through quickly and gets signed to the governor. That if you are a 100% disabled veteran in the state of Florida, that you will no longer pay any tolls. So you guys have, and if any veterans are here, we salute you. If there are any 100% disabled veterans here, we want to continue our service and our commitment to you guys by making it a little bit easier to live here in the state of Florida. Any comments on that bill?
No, I was happy to sponsor the bill in the House. I think it's something that, according to my wife Jen, it's her favorite bill that I have this session. To continue to look out for our veterans, particularly those that are disabled, I think is our job, our duty. So I'm proud to be on this bill. Thank you, Senator, for bringing it to my attention.
Sure. Let's get this thing done. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to call upon, first we're going to call upon all of the elected officials that are on the speak that are on agenda. If there's an elected official that is not on the agenda that wants to speak, just let me know. We will call upon you. We're really not going to have a time limit for elected officials, so you can take as much time as you want within reason. Scott, within reason. And after that, we have, I want to say about 23 people in addition that want to speak. At that point, we're going to keep comments to 3 minutes. So we'll keep the timer going. We'll buzz you off and tell you that you're done at that point. So at this point, let's start off with the agenda. Commissioner Rebecca Blaise, you are first. And behind her, is Eric here? Eric Williams? That's right. We announced you. Okay. And we'll have you right after the commissioner. You are recognized, Commissioner Blaise.
Thank you. Senator Ingoglia, Representative Grow, we're so appreciative that you are in Tallahassee to represent us. Senator Ingoglia, we appreciate the years of service that you have given to our state, so thank you for that and your tireless efforts to advocate on behalf of not only our county and Hernando, but throughout the state. Today, I come before you to seek the support of 3 vital projects that will enhance the quality of life for our residents and what we believe stimulate the economy and bolster local business and help share a prosperous future for Citrus County. The first one that I would like to talk about is the relocation of the Fire Station Number 8 to the Inverness Airport. A few years back, when Inverness decided that they wanted to take back over their fire station, it displaced the county's fire station out into a residential neighborhood, thereby displacing it from what we call our ISO ratings. We believe that this will do a few different things. One, we all understand the complications of what's going on with the homeowners insurance industry, and this picks up a little over 20,000 residents, and it not only helps get insurance markets back to those people that live in that area, but also reduces their ISO rating, thereby reducing their premiums. That's number one. Number two, on the fire station, we are expanding the airport out there, and the proximity to Highway 41 and 44 also enhances the times across both the rural areas, and it also helps strategically with the airport property, ensuring immediate access to the critical infrastructure as the runways, the fueling stations, and enabling rapid response to the aviation-related emergencies and the aircraft incidents and hazards. Second on our list, unless you have questions for me on that, and our appropriation request is $2.3 million for that.
The only question I have before you go forward is, have all these been voted on and approved by the local county commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay, appreciate that.
The next on the list is the Florida Cross Barge Canal boat ramp. That is what I consider to be a very regional impact. As you may or may not know, Citrus County is limited to the amount of boat ramps that they can have because of the manatee protection zones. All of the boat ramps that we currently have that are strategically within the county are primarily in what we would call residential neighborhoods. They lack a lot of parking, and we're not able to locate anyplace else. And we believe this is an opportunity for us to locate out on the barge canal, pick up all that regional traffic. And what I would like to enhance on this, this ask is this completes this project. It has literally been on the books since 2012. And it started out with the BP funds that we received some appropriation. We're just now in this position to be able to ask for these dollars, but this $10 million and the $10 million that the county will match into it will make this a completed project. Time is of the essence on this because we keep experiencing the inflation guard of what happens to this. In 22, this went from a little over a $15 million project to now a $20 million project. So we think that by doing this, the legislature has given Save Crystal River a lot of money to restore Kings Bay, and we think by having this boat ramp, we can now shift that burden out of our local neighborhoods and get it up on the barge canal, and we'll see the long-term improvements through Crystal River and Homosassa for the work that they're doing on the restorations. The third thing that we're
Chairman,
asking...
on that one real quick.
Yes.
I've been contacted by Marion County and by Levy County in favor of this project because of where it sits. But the one thing I wanted to ask you about, we have a federal partner on this? Is that right?
They actually own the land.
Okay.
And as you know, the Coast Guard is locating right next to it, and they're well under construction at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The third project is the Halls River Multi-Use Path. This is a project, it's a 10 to 12 foot wide asphalt multi-use path extending 3.2 miles from the south Riverview Circle into Highway 19. This project helps connect people using this path, and it's an investment in our infrastructure and the county's potential tourism dollars by getting people off the roads and connecting the businesses and letting traffic move more safely through pedestrian and the golf cart community. So those are our asks.
I appreciate that. Any other questions? Good. All right. Thank you. Eric Williams, City of Inverness, and right behind him is Dr. Scott Hebert.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here. I appreciate your representation of our community in Tallahassee. This morning, Inverness is here today to touch on a number of general items that we hope that you can continue to support in Tallahassee. Things such as multimodal connectivity throughout the state of Florida, things such as supporting septic to sewer projects throughout the state. They're incredibly valuable, especially in a community like Citrus County. Also, home rule, it's an important thing for our local governments and local entities to be able to maintain those. But specifically, there's a couple of projects that we originally wanted to submit to you all for consideration for supporting as legislative asks. One of those we've pulled back on. The first I'll talk about that we've pulled back on is Railroad Street. This was a longstanding, almost nearly 100-year-old right-of-way of the city that was a functioning road. In the early 1900s, it was historically supportive of a black community that was built there in the 20s. These were families that were displaced from the mining complexes of the original phosphate mines. And that road had largely gone unmanaged, unmaintained for decades. It had connectivity to the Highway 41 area prior to the building of the overpass for the railroad bed there. The community itself created a connection to the highway over the last 70 plus years. And what the city is looking for in this was to reestablish that connection in conjunction with the widening of the highway for a number of reasons. But we're not asking for a legislative ask, so I won't mire too much in the details. I will tell you we've had a very successful conversation with the Florida Department of Transportation. They are going to modify their design of the project to be able to accept the city's already standing right-of-way to best appropriately have it connect the highway. So not looking for anything other than support and continued support for the Florida Department of Transportation's budgets as they move forward with these types of projects. The one specific legislative ask that we would be requesting is Whispering Pines Park is a 300-acre regional facility that the city has managed at no cost to the state for decades. It is part of the state forest system, and the city began a lease on that in the 70s and established a regional park facility that has ball fields. It has a splash pad, has a junior Olympic swimming pool, has miles and miles of hiking trails and mountain bike trails, as well as tennis courts, basketball courts, pickleball courts. And it is a great facility. It's a jewel of Citrus County. And we're glad to have the partnership that we've had with the state in that for a number of years. Recently, they came to the table to help us establish a new entrance, and that is ongoing as we speak as part of the Highway 41 widening project that will appropriately use a traffic facility light that's already there. But we're also happy we have a partnership with Citrus County, who funds a portion of the operational costs of the park. But the park is growing old in years, and it continues to be a cost-intensive feature of our park system. And we are now looking at ways that we can have that facility be financially sustainable without having to look to put a higher burden on our taxpayers here locally. Akin to what you see in other state forest facilities and state park facilities, they heavily leverage very basic RV-type campgrounds in their facilities as a strong revenue stream to be able to manage and maintain those facilities. We seek to in place something very similar at this park. And we believe strongly that if it was still in the hands of the state for management, that would be the approach that they would take. We're not asking them to take on the entirety of that burden, but we would ask for them to be a partner, and that's part of what our legislative ask is. It's a $3 million total project, with the city bringing $1 million and asking for $2 million from the state legislature. Keep in frame that this brings a revenue stream into that park system that will not be something that's just the local taxpayers funding, but rather regional visitation and out-of-state visitation for vast amounts of ball tournaments, travel ball that we have there, and people coming to visit the Withlacoochee State Trail. This will be the only public-owned and managed simple RV-type campground that connects to the state trail within Citrus County, which is important because that trail sees over 500,000 unique users a year. We think it's a great project. We think it's something that benefits not only our local residents, but brings visitation into the city. Also benefits our local businesses, because these folks that come here will be shopping in our local small businesses, buying things from our service economy here, and we're very excited about it. Those are our two things that we brought to you. Again, the first, Railroad Street, not asking you for anything at this time, but the Whispering Pines Park Campground, definitely think that would be something that we would ask you to consider. And
question, this has been brought to the city and everyone voted on it and approved the request?
Yes, and there's a resolution included in the backup material that commits the city's match to that. It also includes Railroad Street, but again, we had a discussion at the last council meeting to pull back on that legislative ask. So, and I'm happy to be here today. Mayor Bob Plaisted is here. We have a number of our council members here: Crystal Lizanich, Tom Craig, and Gene Davis, and our assistant city manager, Frank Calashone. And we'll be happy to answer any other questions you have.
I think the only question I had, so that the money that's raised at the campground will just be reinvested in the park?
To be reinvested in the park. Our goal is to basically lower the cost of running the park to where there's really not an infusion of local tax dollars to make it function. There are some heavy capital projects that need to occur at that park, given that most of the facilities were built in the late 70s and early 80s. And it's not really a reasonable aspect to capitalize that in bond issuance and things based on local taxation, when we could look at a revenue stream from something like a campground.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And thank you for looking to the FDOT for the $2 million for
Yeah.
the railroad.
Well, they are really a great organization to work with. They've helped us in a number of aspects like that. And Railroad Street is a number of years out from ever being constructed, but it doesn't lose that entitlement. And that's really important, because there's over 75 acres of vacant property that could be developed in and around that facility, as well as we have circulation circumstances dealing with Turner Camp from the widening of the highway. And, we have our partners at the school system that are dealing with traffic circulation as well. So, it's an exciting project, but will take a long time.
Well, like you said, FDOT are great partners, and given the almost $300 million that's being invested in Citrus County now between the Parkway and 41, they're going to be here for a while.
They are. We're happy to have it. We really are. And appreciate you all's support and representation.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, Dr. Scott Hebert, Superintendent of Schools, along with Ms. Sandra Counts, Chair of the Citrus County School Board. You all recognized.
Good morning, Senator Ingoglia, Representative Grow. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to speak today, and I appreciate your leadership at the state level. I want to personally thank you. This past week, I brought about 50 students from my superintendent council up to Tallahassee, and I appreciate both of you taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with them and give them a firsthand look at civics education. So thank you again. They very much enjoyed it and are still talking about that opportunity. So
Is it true they were playing football in the Senate chambers?
I wasn't going to share that. But
It was the best part of my day, Scott, I promise you.
Well, I might have a referral for Senator Ingoglia for some other
I'm going to get
conversation.
detention.
But thank you again. I also want to recognize, as you know, Chairman Counts is here today from the school board, and we also have Mr. Dodd here from the board. Some of our other board members, Mr. Frank and Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Faraday are unable to be here today, but they do fully support everything that we're doing. We did share our legislative priorities with them at a board meeting, and they did vote on that. So that is noted on our agenda, and it was voted on by the board.
I think we also have think we also have an internal rule that if Thomas Kennedy doesn't show up at these meetings, we don't fund any of their appropriations. So we might have to break the news.
Well, do not. He shared a message to say go Red Sox, so just wanted to make sure you got that today.
You can definitely tell him all the appropriations are dead.
We have 5 items that we'd like to kind of just share with you, and I'll just give a brief overview, and I've given to your aides a folder with some information on those items. First of all, I'm requesting that you consider rescinding the mandatory school start times that is to go into effect for the 26-27 school year. And I'd like to just share a little bit some concerns that my leadership team has had, as well as some conversations we've had with our local community regarding that. Number one, if we had to do that, we're going to have our students, elementary students, out in the dark. So picturing a 5-year-old waiting for a bus when it's dark outside, and I'm just uncomfortable with buses having to travel at that point to pick them up and the students having to wait in the dark. Secondly, our high school athletics would all have to be shifted, so that means our students would be playing athletics or doing activities or clubs much later in the evening. So that's going to be a concern for them as well. There was some conversation of them maybe then coming in early and doing their training or practices, and well, then it doesn't fix the issue of them sleeping in, because they're going to have to do that. Thirdly, this is going to be a financial impact to us, having to be able to find buy more buses to be able to provide that transportation if we're not going to be able to do the shared routes that we have in the system we have in place, or just being able to find drivers to be able to do that work. That's also going to be an issue. And then finally, many of our families use their high school students to babysit their younger siblings. So when the elementary school gets out at the end of the day, the high school kids would still be in school, so parents are going to have to figure out daycare or other caregiving for their children. So currently the way we have it, the elementary students get out later, the high school students get out earlier. They're able to then provide that support, pick their children up, whatever they need to do. So that is one of my big asks. That's one of my big priorities, to be able to do that. We are currently in the process. We've been sharing it with our school advisory councils to gather feedback and input. We're sharing the information about the purpose behind it. And then we're also doing a survey to our families and community members to also gather that input. But I'm asking you to consider that as rescinding that for the future, or at least giving us an opportunity to make the best decision that we have for our local community versus having to have a specified time. Secondly, we're requesting an appropriations for a public safety training annex to include an indoor firing range. And so safety is very important to me. I've had some conversations with Sheriff Vincent about the opportunity of how we're going to be able to continue to provide safety for our kids. So we want to make sure that we have a place that we can train. There's a lot of training that's required, and so we want to provide an annex and an opportunity where we can have a shared facility that we can use, so we can train our guardians, our sworn law enforcement officers, our cadets, corrections, variety of different folks that can come in and get this training. And so this indoor firing range would be located on a piece of property that the school district owns, and then we'd be able to then collaborate on that and provide that. So the Withlacoochee Technical College would basically have that oversight of that under the auspices of our Criminal Justice Training Academy. So that's a second ask that we're working through. We don't have the financial impact of that yet, but we're still working what that cost would be.
And one of the other things that has been mentioned from the general public is Fish and Wildlife used to do gun safety for our children. So we're having a problem with gun safety. So they also wanted us to include training for parents or kids in gun safety uses, and that having an indoor facility would make that possible.
Dr. Hebert, the one thing I'll mention, and I think you know this, but the deadline on appropriations for us to put in is next Friday.
Yes.
So
we're
Okay.
working through that.
Thank you.
Third, I want to thank you, Senator Ingoglia, for the $100,000 relief that you provided to specifically Citrus County schools and our district for funding through the Education Foundation. We have many, many families that were impacted by that, and we greatly appreciate that. What we're asking for additionally is to provide funding to mitigate the financial impact of the disaster preparedness, management, and recovery from Hurricane Helene that has occurred. We're making repairs and enhancement to our Marine Science Station, and if you've not had a chance to visit, I encourage you to come out and see that facility. But it has sustained from the past couple of years significant damage and impact from the hurricanes. And most recently, we had gotten everything up to speed, and then this recent hurricane came in and then impacted everything. We had just basically undid everything that we had just done. So we want to be able to do that. Our bus compound received significant damage, so we're looking at improvements there. And then necessary updates and recovery efforts for our Christopher Middle School and Christopher Primary School because they sustained significant damage. The next one we're requesting is transportation, to increase transportation funding to address driver shortages. I know this is not just a local issue. I know it's a state, and when I talk to colleagues across the nation, other superintendents, they're indicating the same thing. So we have increased our pay for our bus drivers. We've also had a discipline matrix we put in place because we know we've heard discipline's a piece of that, but we also are also looking at other ways that we can then be able to provide great transportation for families in Citrus County schools. So we're asking for that as well. And then the final one is our Academy of Health Careers at Christopher High School. We know we had a funding request that was out there. It was cut back, but we're coming back again asking for that at Christopher High School to focus on our career technical opportunities that we have for our students in Citrus County schools. There's a growing need for healthcare workforce needs, and we believe the Health Academy is the venue that we can provide that. So we're asking for additional funding there as well. I've also included in your packet from the Florida School Board Association their requests and initiatives. And Ms. Council, do you want to say anything about Crystal River?
No, I'm just saying that the Marine Science Station was very, very important because we had to cancel some trips for the kids. They look forward to that every year. And so Ernie Olson out there does a fabulous job, and some of the kids are disappointed, and they're working overtime right now. We cut the high school kids out this year, but all the elementary school kids and the middle school kids will get to go, and they're looking forward to it. But they were almost devastated when their trips were all canceled this past semester. So it's important to the kids. That's one of the reasons they come to school.
Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity.
I had a lot of great trips to the Marine Science Station growing up here. So, Dr. Hebert, is it true that Sam Himmel applied for a bus driving job?
Well, there's a field trip that her granddaughter's going on, and I said, I'll approve your chaperone application if you drive a bus for me. So I don't know if she's been approved yet. We're working through that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, Audra Kurtz, City of Crystal River. I believe Ms. Kurtz is the last elected official I have listed. Is there any other elected official that would wish to speak? Okay.
Good morning, Senator and Representative. Thank you so much for your time. We have a very short list this year, but it's a large short list. So we are in the process, the city, of working with our engineers to do a wastewater treatment plant upgrade. We have been gathering funds for the last several years. We've managed to obtain, between city funding and grant funding, about $12 million of the 24 we're going to probably need to upgrade that wastewater treatment plant. So although the list will say that we're asking for 12, we are doing it piece by piece. So if that means that we get $1 million this year, we'll put it towards it, and we're working towards setting that up so that it can be done in phases based on our funding as we are able to obtain it. One of the most important asks we have this year is we're working with Save Crystal River, and obviously they've received a lot of state funding to, as Commissioner Blaise alluded to earlier, they're doing a lot of work on Kings Bay and restoring the bay, cleaning out all the spring vents. it's come to our attention in the Hunter Springs area where that spring vent is, that they're getting ready as soon as manatee season is over to come in and clean those vents right in front of the Hunter Springs Park. Unfortunately, a number of years ago, the park was enhanced for public, and they put in an artificial beach there, which is extremely well used in the summer, and even not in the summer. As soon as it's warm enough to swim, that park is just busy all the time with residents of Citrus County and all the surrounding areas. Unfortunately, that wonderful white sand that is part of that beach, when they did that back in 2015, they removed a seawall that was preventing that sand from going in. And what has happened with the catastrophic hurricanes that we've had and the flooding is that white sand has washed in and started to plug those spring vents. So when manatee season is over this year, we need to rebuild that seawall and protect those springs. And that's something that Save Crystal River is going to put forth as much dollars as they can. The city will put in as much as they can. And again, we've heard from our legislative liaison lobbyist that she doesn't think the allocations will be very large this year, but anything we can get towards this effort to help us rebuild that seawall, we have to figure that out. And Save Crystal River is helping us in that regard as well. Our third and final ask is, again, as Commissioner Blaise said, we have very limited launch facilities in this county as far as for boat launch. Currently, the city has 2 within city limits. One is at Pete's Pier Marina, and that one, unfortunately, based on all the flooding events, is starting to deteriorate. That wash in and wash out that's been occurring is damaging that ramp terribly. We have one at 3rd Street currently with 0 parking, as Commissioner Blaise alluded to as well. And so that one is scheduled to be closed when the Riverwalk goes forward. We tried to obtain permission to move that ramp elsewhere, and we're not successful in doing so based on the number of boat ramps that the state allows as well. But we have been working with the county, with Steve Howard and the County Board of County Commissioners, to come up with a plan to expand an existing boat ramp that is the county's at Fort Island Trail. And so our other ask is for whatever we can get towards getting that expanded launch facility. We'd like to expand the parking and potentially, over time, expand the actual number of ramps as well, so that we make up for all those tiny little ramps that are within city limits that so many visitors and county residents try to use, and it's very difficult based on parking. So I thank you for your time, and those are our asks this year.
Have all these been before the city, and have they all voted on this?
They have, and you will also be, I believe, receiving letters of support from the county. We're on their agenda for this upcoming Tuesday as far as our joint projects. So those will be in your hands prior to your Friday deadline as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up, Dr. James Henningsen, College of Central Florida. And behind the good Dr. Mosa Bowmaster will be next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much appreciated. I've also got our Vice Chairman here of the Board of Trustees, former Representative Charlie Stone. It's great to see you both up in Tallahassee earlier this week. And again, thank you so much for your leadership. A lot of big issues to deal with up there leading our state, and we appreciate both of you. I want to say thank you also for the previous support we've had from the legislature. We're in the largest workforce program expansion in the history of the college. You've helped secure funding for us to expand our healthcare programs, our agricultural programs, IT, cybersecurity, a lot of different areas that we are booming in. And I just can't tell you how much I want to thank you for that. And Representative Grove, because you're here now, you get credit for all the past of your predecessor too. So, but really appreciate that leadership. The only 2 things this year we're looking forward to requesting from you, and you don't have to sponsor either one. Senator McLean's got one on the agricultural and educational facility. We had a donation of 103-acre farm that we use for agricultural and equine training. And that's something that it's a gorgeous property if you haven't been there. And Senator Ingoglia, thank you for your support last year. We're doing precision training right now with the most advanced robotics and also drones there for agricultural use. We don't have a classroom building, so we're looking for a classroom building for that one. The farm was valued at about a $6 million local donor who wanted to make sure that was available for agricultural training. we're doing training that's not just for our region. We get people from all over the state who want to come to this because we got a great faculty member out of UF. UF IFAS is partnering with us on this initiative right now, as well as Embry-Riddle. They love our airspace a little better than Daytona for the agricultural drones, but I think that can be a really big positive impact statewide. There's not a single training facility at an institution for the precision agricultural training on either on tractors, all the heavy equipment, or the drones. We think that can be a statewide resource and be a leader in that space here at the college. Second was just fuel, and that's operating dollars. We had a kind of a tough year last year with no increase in our state operating budget statewide, but we're finding ways to keep moving forward on this workforce expansion. But we need fuel in that race car so that we can, or tractor, so that we can keep tilling the fields and keep moving forward with the expansion right now. In Citrus County, our health programs have been growing rapidly. We have a new Nursing Promise Scholarship where this year is the first time any Citrus County resident gets to go through the #1 two-year nursing program in the state of Florida, that's ours, over anybody else, for free. And that's thanks to the Citrus County Hospital Board to make that possible. We got 56 students in there right now doing that and expect to continue growing that. And that's for good going forward. Any Citrus County resident can go through our nursing program at any site for free. And that's a big deal. So we're really grateful for that. But appreciate your leadership support. And Mr. Vice Chair?
Just here to say hello and thank you for your support.
We're bringing our students up next week, so stay tuned. No footballs.
I cannot promise that.
But thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
Good seeing you, Rep. Okay, next up, Melissa Barmester, Jesse's Place. You were recognized.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us today. I am the Executive Director of Jesse's Place, the Citrus County Children's Advocacy Center. And I'm here to ask for your support for our legislative funding to expand our current facility. Based on some very wise advice that we received, our plan is to split our ask into 2 separate years. So this year we are only asking for approximately $150,000 to fund our design professional services and construction management services. So in your packet, you should have a copy of the proposal that we received for those design services, along with a copy of the 50-year lease that we secured with the county last month. So the need for this expansion is significant for us. We just did our last year's stats, and last year in '24, we provided almost 3,000 hours of therapy services to abused kids in this county. But the reality is that my facility is simply too small to accommodate the demand, the current demand and the need. So we are seeing about 75 to 80 kids every single week in our therapy program, but I'm maintaining a wait list of about 16. So as of this week, there are 16 kids waiting for services to deal with the trauma from abuse. So again, the need for more space is real. The intention is to add about 7,500 square feet to our existing 5,000 square feet facility, which will allow us to more than double our number of therapy rooms, but also include group rooms so we can expand those services. We all know that our county is growing, so the fact that we are unable to meet the demand now, much less prepare for the future, tells me that we really need to make these efforts now. We need to be prepared for the growth that we're going to see, and the kids in Citrus County deserve to have the services they need when they need them. So I thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions of me.
No, I don't have a question, just a comment that you guys do a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
I do have a question. So you already have the land. This is the land that we walked, or so it's an expansion of the current facilities. One of the things that we had discussed when I was on site.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I want you to work with staff. I don't know if that funding request is going to be adequate. I would like to see the funding request bumped up.
Okay.
So you said 150. Do we have the appropriations requests in for that already? Do we have the paperwork in?
No, the forms have not been submitted as of yet because I'm still waiting on the proposal for the contract management services. But the proposal for the design services is in, and that should be in your packet. And those came in at just under $90,000.
Does that include engineering?
Correct, it does.
Okay. All right, get with our office, because I think I'm gonna, some more wise advice is to just
Okay.
bump that number up.
Okay,
To
thank you.
make sure
And-
that we have enough and we're not gonna have any shortfalls. I don't want you guys to be put in a position where you're gonna have to do a raise campaign, raising money for any shortfalls. I'd rather us have the money, because any money that is not used will just be, can be put back in the budget and reverted back to you later
Okay.
for the actual construction part. So I'd rather overshoot, have some extra money sitting there for phase 2, than rather undershoot, and then you guys have to go to the community for the money.
Understood.
makes sense.
I agree, makes great sense. And Jordan has been a wonderful, wonderful help to me throughout this process, so I thank her for her time.
All right, you got it, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Okay, next, G. McGee, live stream.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's nice to see you at home as opposed to Tallahassee. I'm here for Livestream Behavioral Health Care today. Our request is for $2 million in capital funding to assist in the construction of the Citrus County Behavioral Health Center, which will include psychiatric beds, Baker Act beds, 60 of those. The project started 4 years ago. We've now have a partnership with the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners. They contributed $2 million to the project. Hernando County has contributed $2 million to the project, and the state has appropriated $2 million to the project. That's when our cost was $12 million. The cost now has ballooned to $16 million to construct the facility. Livestream was in for $6 million, or half the project. Now they're willing to go in for the rest, but we're seeking state help of $2 million to cover the $16 million. So that would make the numbers, locals or the counties would be in for $4 million or 25%. The state would be in for $4 million or 25%, and Livestream would be in for 50%. I know that you're being scrutinized this year on your request for, is it a regional project? This certainly is. It serves both Citrus and Hernando counties and surrounding counties, to be honest with you, because the availability of psychiatric and Baker Act beds are always in demand. And is their match? And I would submit that we have 50% match if you count only Livestream, and up to 75% if you include local and Livestream match, and that would be our request.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Troy Weaver, Executive Director of the ROC program. And here, I thought Dwayne Johnson was going to come up here.
It happens all the time. I know we're on a time limit, but we get phone calls for Dwayne all the time. I know. Thank you. Good morning, Senator. It's nice to meet you. I am Troy Weaver. I'm the Executive Director of the ROC program. Representative Grow, good to see you again. Thanks for the time earlier this week. We are in the process of expanding our programming. We'll have an appropriation request in, sponsored by Senator McClain and Representative Chamberlain. But what we really want to do is to give you the information of what we do and how we do it. And I think the most important, best way to do that is introducing our founder, Rondo Fernandez, our founder and board president, so he can tell you kind of what we do.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. Great again to see you, and it was amazing to be able to spend time in the Capitol and to see everything that we did. The ROC program was birthed out of the Ocala National Forest due to my exposure of extreme rural poverty as a kid growing up. Me and all my friends struggled every day to figure out what was next in our life, whether it be food, clothing, hygiene, feminine hygiene. As I became an adult and was able to impact that issue, in 2016, we worked with Lakeware High School in Marion County to open up our first ROC room. To be able to take those essential needs out to those students is absolutely impossible to meet them out in the county, out in the forest. So we decided to build a room at the school to provide those needs. We quickly started to see 40 to 50 kids each and every day just to provide food, clothing, hygiene, feminine hygiene, school supplies, hugs, high five, prayer, whatever it takes for them to be confident in the hallways and be who God called them to be. Our mission statement is to provide hope for the future by empowering them in the present. Our schools are 80+% poverty level. Each and every day we have kids that are making a decision whether they're going to put on dirty clothes or not go to school. that lady's going to wake up and have to make a decision if she doesn't have the proper feminine hygiene, if she's going to go to school or not. So we try to remove any reason that a student has not had, that a student will not have a reason to come to school. We like to partner with other local nonprofits. We partner with the district to meet all their needs so they can concentrate on educating the students. And we work with them to make sure those students have everything they need so they can just be empowered in the hallways and be confident so they can grow. We truly believe that it might just be a stick of deodorant, might just be a pair of socks, but I think the next teacher, a doctor, lawyer, president, representative, senator can be behind one of those things. We see several hundred kids each and every day. In Marion County alone, we served 11,000 students. We're looking forward to growing and finishing off Lake County. Currently in 2024, we're in 3 counties. We have Lake County, we have Marion County, and this year we are fortunate enough to have our first school in Citrus County in the Renaissance program, which also is we're working towards serving the PACE Center for Girls. That's 3 minutes. Any questions?
I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for what you do.
We appreciate you guys so much.
John Murphy, Citrus County Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning. Thank you guys for being here this morning. So Citrus County Chamber of Commerce, we have about 1,000 members. Actually, we're a little over 1,000 members. We represent many thousands of local employees through those 1,000-member businesses. Our priorities really starts with conversations with those member businesses. We survey them regularly and consistently. For the last couple of years, the 3 items that are just kind of bubble to the top always for us is adequate housing for our employees, as well as skills gap and even having trained employees, as well as really the ever-growing cost of insurance for both our employers and our employees. So those are things that we look at as it relates to the legislature. And so what we ask is, as you kind of go through this session, if there are bills and there are things that are happening in those areas, think about the workforce, think about that, you guys both sign the front of a paycheck, and so you guys understand what it is that your employees have those things in front of them. So that's what we ask for, is that you're paying attention to those items. As it relates to our community, we don't necessarily ask for any appropriations or anything specifically, but what we want to do is we want to see where's those opportunities for us to lend our voice to those things that are happening within our community. You've already heard you have our presentation in front of you. And so it starts with the county. The county, you heard from Commissioner Blaise, where she talked about the regional boat ramp. We're incredibly supportive of that because we know that could have a significant economic impact within our community. So we're incredibly supportive of that. We also look to the moving of the Fire Station 8. The ISO rating of 9 and 10 is just brutal on more than 20,000 residents. They're going to be impacted if we can effectively move that. Plus, we also have the positive impact that it'll have on the business park as well as the aviation community being located right there at the airport. We also look to nonprofits in our community. You guys have the details. You're going to hear from both of these folks as the day goes on. But the YMCA has a tremendous impact in our community. It's mind, body, and spirit. Mental health of our workforce is critically important. The YMCA certainly fills that role, and they're going to come across with a legislative ask that we're incredibly supportive of, as well as the AES, Academy of Environmental Science. They have an appropriations request that we looked at and we're supportive of as well. There were many other requests out there, but we always look for the purview of how is this going to impact our local business community, how is this going to impact our local employers and employees, and so we look to those to be able to lend our support. And finally, clean water. Clean water is critical to our tourism economy. It's critical to our just survival as well as our local business community. And so there are clean water asks for both Homosassa and Crystal River that we ask you guys to look favorably on that. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Pat McCray, Convention Estates.
Good morning, Representative Grow, Senator Ingoglia. We thank you for allowing me to share. I'm a volunteer with Convention Estates Action in Florida. First, I want to thank you for your choice to step up as our representatives in my district. in the Florida Legislature. I know that you take time away from your business and your own families and to represent us in Tallahassee, and I appreciate you. Next, I'd like to remind you of the documents from our rally in Tallahassee during last year's regular session. To prepare Florida to be the state leader in the first Article 5 convention, we need to complete a few steps. Convention of States Action strongly recommends we revisit our commissioner's selection process defined in Florida Statute 11.93. Convention of States Action constitutional lawyers have worked hard to document for you a slender and effective template for model legislation, which has been presented to you in a packet. And finally, in order for the legislature to be introduced, discussed, and passed, we encourage you to create an Article 5 working group or committee which can not only handle that legislation, but also discuss the kind of amendments Florida would like to carry forward when the convention supports reaches 34 states. There are a great many amendments which can be created within the areas of limiting federal government terms on jurisdiction and spending. To get the creative juices flowing, this documentation contains 22 possible amendments. So here's my call to action for you as my legislator. Please review the documentation and encourage the Speaker of House, Daniel Perez, to create an Article 5 working group so Florida can be the first to lead that Article 5 convention. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you do. God bless you, and we will be praying for you. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm good.
Thank you so much.
Next up, John Labriola, Christian Family Coalition, Florida.
Good morning, Senator Ingoglia and Representative Grow. My name is John Labriola. I represent the Christian Family Coalition. As you know, we're a statewide organization that advocates for religious liberty statewide. And we've seen you both in Tallahassee, so it's good to see you back home. We have, as you know, a list of 6 priorities that we're pursuing this year. You have it in your package, but since I only have 3 minutes, I want to focus on the first one, which is back in 2023, the legislature passed a bill called the Parental Rights and Education Act, which provided protections to not only school students, but also school teachers and administrators to protect them from gender ideology mandates, specifically the pronoun mandates, being forced to use certain pronouns. And so what we're asking is for those protections to be extended over into the rest of Florida governments, which is county and city. As you know, one of the very first executive orders that President Trump signed was to eliminate gender ideology in the federal government. Not only did he get rid of all the trainings and everything dealing with forcing gender ideology on federal employees, but he also protected the free speech and religious conscience rights of federal employees by banning any kind of disciplinary action or any kind of any firings or disciplinary action against federal employees for expressing the reality of the binary nature of sex. So we're asking for that same exact thing to be extended over to the city and county employees. And essentially, the bill is already drafted, and we just wanted to go ahead and make sure that it gets passed this session. It was stalled last session in the Senate. We're hoping for a better outcome there this year. And essentially, what it would do is, as I said, not only does it protect the employees from being forced into using certain pronouns, but very importantly, it protects their free speech rights. A number of counties are actually going after the free speech of county employees by looking at what they do online, monitoring their online behavior, and if they say something that disagrees with gender ideology, even if it's on their private time, they get punished for it, which, as you may know, happened to me in Miami-Dade County, which is one of the worst offenders of gender ideology. But there's a number of counties, not just Miami-Dade County, not just South Florida, but also in Leon County. Leon County has a training where it tells employees you need to learn these 9 pronouns. One of them is something called a Z-HIR, Z-E-H-I-R, which is ridiculous. So, you know, in our nation's capital, our state's capital, we have gender ideology going on, and we need to eliminate that. So I would ask you please to look at that bill and hope to get your support. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next up, Angela Kenny, Pace Center for Girls.
Good morning, Senator Ingoglia and Representative Grow. My name is Angela Kennedy, Executive Director, PACE Center for Girls Citrus. With me today, our Social Services Manager, Tiara Alexander, and PACE Girl, Angelina. First, I just want to thank you so much for your personal and state level support of our work. We are so grateful that our state leaders stand with us at PACE, which just celebrated 40 years of advocacy and education for girls. I could tell you about the data and the impact, but I thought it would be better for Angelina to share the impact of PACE Citrus herself.
Hello, my name is Angelina Warwick, and I'm in 9th grade, currently on the Serenity stage at PACE Citrus. I've been at PACE for about a year now, and I've gone through most of the Growth and Change program. While at PACE, it's been easier to learn and know myself. As said in the PACE mission, PACE provides girls and young women an opportunity for a better future through education, counseling, training, and advocacy. I believe it does just that. It's easier to learn with fewer students and distractions from other things. The counseling is helpful to set overall goals as well as personal ones. Growth and Change is a way to view your progress and get recognized for your hard work. There are 5 stages to the Growth and Change program. When you first come to PACE, you start in the opportunity stage, which is an opportunity to advance up to the next stage. When you're on each stage, you get a booklet that has activities that you need to accomplish to advance up. With the booklet, you get a guiding principle to learn and recognize with the activity. On opportunity, you get the principle, honor the female spirit. To me, that means to honor yourself as well as others. On the next stage, it's responsibility. For this stage, you have 2 guiding principles. Invest in the future, which means to take your time to make the most impact, and value the wisdom of time by taking your time and being the most productive when you can be in the time you have. Then comes the dignity stage. The principles are to act with integrity and positive intent, which is honoring others by acting positive and embracing growth and change by embracing your changes and following them. We have the serenity stage, which is exhibiting courage and focusing on your strengths. Lastly, in growth and change, we have the grace, which is seeking excellence and creating partnerships. Being at PACE has helped me realize that we plant seeds every day that go towards our future, no matter what big or small actions we do. The Growth and Change program is encouraging and not pushed, so if you feel like taking it slow, you can do that. It's all based on how you wish to do things. It's been easier to express myself to others and easier to see other points of views. I've been granted a handful of skills and ways to connect with my peers. Before I came to PACE, I wasn't clear on what I wanted to do when I grew up, or what I could do for my future, and now PACE has given me resources and activities to think on it. I had a passion for writing, and I thought it was just that. However, at PACE, they've always had ways to research and see what I could do for writing in my future. I've gotten support from my peers to stage up and be the best me I can be. Right now, I'm working to stage up again and find things I can do with my community to help out and create partnerships so that I can expand my own life. Change doesn't happen overnight. It has to be worked on over days or even months. You have to stick to it, and if you do, you can accomplish anything. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come here to speak about PACE Citrus.
Well done, young lady. Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, you guys do wonderful work in the
Thank you.
community,
We
so
appreciate it.
appreciate you. Thank you. Cindy Fine, Nami Hernando. Is it Hernando or Citrus? Nami Citrus. Okay.
I love Nami Hernando. Tina's one of my best
You better, or I'm going to tell Tina. You are recognized.
Corrected. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. This is the first time I've participated in the delegation, and I'm very happy to see you here and to share a little bit about
What a
NAMI.
coincidence. It's his first time, too.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So NAMI Citrus is one of 9 NAMIs in the state of Florida who already have an appropriation request in. So what I'm here today is to ask you to support that as you read it and hear about it, okay? There are 9 of us that have done this appropriation. We cover 20 counties between us, so it is very much regional. We also do our own matches. We understand that it's not up to the state to necessarily fund everything, so this NAMI Citrus is celebrating 25 years in citrus this year in April, and it's the first year we'll be starting to do fundraising. We're doing a NAMI Walk May 3rd with the goal to get $30,000 to help supplement what we're asking for from the states. So mental health impacts every citizen in Citrus County, and that is because we spend dollars on hospitalization, incarceration, and the homeless population because of mental health. Currently, more than 20% of adults and 25% of youth in the country are exhibiting a mental health illness or condition. With our population growing, and it's no longer just retirees, there's a lot of families coming into Citrus County. Mental illness, 50% of it starts before the age of 14. And education and awareness is a priority. People don't want to talk about mental health, but we need to understand it. We need to recognize it. So I'm asking you to read the bill and the appropriation request. It is the NAMI Family and Peer Support Appropriation. It is being sponsored by Senator Yarborough and Representative Michael. And I want to share real quickly what NAMI Citrus's plan is to do with that, is to do as our commissioners and our county has asked. We want to try to plug some of the gaps that we have in the system as it is. That will include using the NAMI Provider Program, which is an evidence-based program, that will introduce to healthcare professionals how to recognize and address mental health concerns. That is part of our CHIP plan, right? To increase education in those professionals. Also part of the CHIP plan, the Citrus Health Improvement Plan, is to reduce stigma. NAMI has a program which is End Stigma-Free Workplace, and this money will help us get that in so that we can go to all of our businesses and help them understand mental health. And then we want to continue the work we've been doing to bring the NAMI program, Ending the Silence, into the schools. Because 50% of mental health starts before age 14, we need to be in the schools and trained to help recognize it, to help them understand to recognize it in themselves, to help parents understand that it's not their fault. It could be genetics, it could be something else, but recognize it. So we're going to use your money well. Any questions?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, David Reed, YMCA Citrus.
Good morning, Representative, Senator, JJ, congratulations. Thank you. My name's Jerry Mulligan. I'm a volunteer on the board of the YMCA, our local YMCA. With me is David Reed, who is the executive director of our YMCA. We opened in 2016 in Citrus County, and at that time, we raised $8.3 million in local contributions to make that happen. First time it's happened in the state of Florida. Each year, we get residents of Citrus County to contribute more than $320,000 to make sure that our services are available to people that might not be able to afford the prices. We are open to everybody. We provide many services in Citrus County. More than 12,000 citizens are members and regularly use our YMCA. We provide before and after school programming in every elementary school in Citrus County. And one of the things we're really dedicated to is teaching kids to swim. We have a great program where every second grader in Citrus County is given free swim lessons at our YMCA pool. So we're very proud of that. Today, we're coming to you today because last year the YMCA requested $2 million from the Florida Legislature, and you guys graciously approved a $1 million allocation for an expansion project that we really need at our Lecanto facility. Because Citrus County is growing so much, the Y is bursting at the seams. We've got so many new people coming into the community seeking services from us. Today we come before you and ask for another allocation of $1.2 million needed to complete this construction project. And I can just ask David Reed to give you a quick rundown on what that is.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you both for taking some of your time to be with us today. I know a lot of organizations are going to talk about growth, and we all know that's coming in Citrus County, and that includes the YMCA. When we built our YMCA, we opened the doors understanding that we did a feasibility study to build a YMCA. They said that we would need a YMCA to house 6,500 people. May 1st, 2016, we had 10,000 people. A great problem to have, but still a problem. And so within the first year, we went ahead and did our first unplanned expansion and pushed out our wellness center so that we could have more people in there. One of the first things we did right when COVID happened was call every single senior in our database to let them know that we care about them, we're thinking about them, because senior loneliness was a huge issue. And so we were really trying to attack this. We have created a lot of senior programs, and there's a lot of seniors in Citrus County, if you haven't seen, and we need to provide more space for them. We also know that pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country, and these dollars would also be used to help expand those facilities as well. I see my clock. I have 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Thank you.
Any questions?
We're good, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
No questions, but the reading and the swimming, I mean, along with everything else you guys do, are so big in our community. Thank you.
And the countdowning of your own clock was awesome. Next up, Barbara Venditto, Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition. Did I pronounce that right?
Close enough.
I feel your pain with the last name like Ingoglia.
It's Vendito. It's very Italian. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. I am the Executive Director of the Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition. Our coalition is over Lake, Sumter, Citrus, and Hernando counties. I am giving you the most recent January figures for Citrus County. I have them for Hernando. I will send them to your offices. What I want you to notice, first of all, is that our population of homeless locally does not look like the larger metropolitan areas in Florida. All the talk last year of legislation for homeless, and I know there's more coming this year, we don't look the same. The vast majority of our homeless are either first time or relatively new to homeless. They are not suffering from mental health episodes, nor are they suffering from substance abuse. I have 3 big asks this morning. The first is that you maintain the current staffing grants, also known as the Homeless Housing Assistant Grants. That's the money we use to pay staff to not only measure effectiveness and identify the gaps, but to come up with the creative and innovative ideas to resolve this issue, along with working with the individuals as they survive on the streets. The second ask is to maintain the current fiscal year funding for the base challenge grant. That's the money we actually use to put people into permanent housing. The third ask is to make the non-reoccurring $10 million that was added to challenge this year reoccurring. That's money that we can now use to help the unsheltered and get them into at least temporary shelters while we work to get them housed. I'm very eager to talk with both of you one-on-one about this issue as it continues to grow in our community, and thank you.
Next up, Keith Polius, Academy of Environmental Science. Now that's a beard.
Thank you very much. I like your haircut. Well, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be here today and talk to you. My name is Keith Polius, and I am the chairman for the Environmental Science Academy in Crystal River. Over the last several years, we have put over $450,000 into some major structural upgrades and repairs to the building that were uncovered back in 2022. A lot of corrosion on the floor joists that are holding the building up. We have since 1999, we've actually put over $1.3 million into the building. What we're asking for is $240,000 to finish these repairs. We did receive $42,000 last year for some upgrades to our elevator, but these are critical to safety. If we don't get these done, we will not be able to open the school. We will not be able to get the building certified by an engineer. So the construction will not happen until 2026. But in order for us to be able to go through the bidding process and get this under contract, we have to have guaranteed funds by the end of this year. for the final phase of construction. That's why we're asking for it now versus asking for it next year. Do you have any questions about the project? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Jabbar Bugs Graham, Goodwill Industries Suncoast.
Good morning, and thank you for the introduction, and Representative Grow, Senator Ingoglia. I'll be in Tallahassee next week, so if you guys have some time on your schedule, I'd love to sit down and kind of discuss some of the things that we're doing in depth a little bit more. But today I just wanted to kind of provide a community update and talk about some of the things that Goodwill Suncoast is doing, because we do have a store located here in Citrus County over off 254 North Suncoast Boulevard. And I wanted to kind of highlight our partnership right now with HCA and our JET after-school program that provides services to persons with disabilities to help them with job training. And the process of that is going into a location, have an after-school program that allows them the opportunity to not only get on-the-job training, but they also have the opportunity to be paid for the on-the-job training as well. And then we have a partnership with mostly with the schools and everything for Project Search. And Project Search program is a partnership with usually a hospital or other locations where we take persons with disabilities or has barriers to employment, where they have a chance to go in, have a chance to work. And then that chance of working and transitioning and learning about the jobs usually leads to them having the opportunity to have employment at those locations that they're working at. And I wanted to make sure that everyone in Citrus County was fully aware that we at Goodwill Industries Suncoast are here for the community, and we're looking to serve and looking to work with everyone here, especially The Rock. I heard from them earlier and love their testimony and want to see what we can do to help out there as well. So we're all about the partnership pieces there. And that's pretty much it. I do want to highlight a couple of things to talk about what we've done over the last year. Some of our impact numbers: over 77,000 people served. We had 42.5 million pounds of items that were donated to Goodwill that were sold and diverted from local landfills in all 10 counties that we currently serve. And then for our childhood literacy program, we gave out more than 70,000 books to 137 locations that impacted more than 50,000 kids. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Carrie Peters, Aspire Relationship Center.
Thank you for having me. I'm Carrie Peters, the Executive Director of Aspire Relationship Center, a local nonprofit that hosts community-based prevention programs for youth in Citrus County. Aspire's mission is to provide relationship and risk avoidance education to as many students as possible. And because the issues and consequences of unhealthy relationships and risky behaviors also affect their families and communities, Aspire provides education and support to parents and other significant adults in their lives. The most recent school-aged child and adolescent profile shows that Citrus County youth rank unfavorable in many areas, including repeat births to mothers age 15 to 19. Almost 40% of our middle and high school students have felt sad and hopeless for 2 or more weeks in a row. In a world that seems so connected, the connections are clearly not healthy. We have to prioritize prevention and teach our youth the skills needed to develop healthy connections. We don't expect our students to learn about English and math on their own, so let's not expect them to learn about making healthy decisions, avoiding risk, developing healthy relationships, and forming healthy families on their own. They need programs like Aspire that offers training on relationship education and risk avoidance education. We have partnered with our school district for over 13 years to provide this education and support. Unfortunately, we're a small nonprofit with limited funding, employing only 3 staff members, allowing us to see just a fraction of our students. Aspire has built a foundation to support the growth that would allow us to hire, train, develop, and support a staff that could saturate our community. I also represent our state organization, Florida Healthy Choices Coalition, to address significant problem with the Department of Children and Families Support Self-Sufficiency Unit. It seems that every 3 years, when DCF compiles another self-sufficiency report, that is supposed to outline how they are helping families become and remain self-sufficient through temporary assistance for needy families funding, they are unable to do so. 3 of the 4 TANF goals are end the dependence of needy parents on government benefits by promoting job preparation, work, and marriage. Another is to prevent and reduce the incidence of out-of-wedlock pregnancies. And third, to encourage the formation and maintenance of 2-parent families. However, in the last 4 reports, that's 12 years, DCF continues to say that it doesn't have to address these goals because other Florida agencies are doing it. Other Florida agencies are not doing it, and neither is DCF. The result is that our social service budget continues to grow as more single parents depend on government assistance, and often for successive generations rather than becoming self-sufficient.
I didn't start the timer. You got about 20 seconds
Okay.
left.
We are asking legislatures to direct DCF to allocate $10 million of their $900 million TANF budget to community-based organizations like Aspire and other Florida Healthy Choices Coalition members to use that TANF funding. So what I'm asking for you, what I'm hoping that you see today, just put a local face and a local organization with the work that you're doing. You should be hearing about this in Tallahassee, we hope. And we ask that you support this with the Appropriations Committee on Health and Human Services.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Next up, Barbara Robertson, Florida Guardian Ad Litem Office. Okay. Maxine Connor, Sierra Club, Adventure Coast.
Maxine Connor, Citrus Conservation Chair for Sierra Adventure Coast Group. Thank you for coming. For the coming Florida legislative session, we seek your support for the following priorities to protect our springs, forests, conservation lands, and all the wildlife they support. There is a huge development support occurring in our county and other areas of Florida that must be balanced with protection of existing conservation lands, acquisition of new conservation lands at risk of development, springs restoration, enforcement of environmental regulations, and clean energy. Florida state parks support legislation to prevent the development of resorts, golf courses, and other inappropriate use of lands within our award-winning Florida state parks. Florida Forever support generous funding for the state's exemplary, transparent, and established process for conservation land acquisition to meet the increased need for conservation lands. Rural and Family Lands Program support funding to purchase conservation easements to protect environmentally significant lands from development. Springs restoration, this is a big one. Please increase funding significantly over past years to slow the continuing degradation of Florida's springs, rivers, and groundwater resources. Springs restoration has been continuously underfunded at $50 million per year, the minimum allowable. Yet the basin management action plans in place, they place an increasing burden on cities and counties to reduce nutrient loading. That takes money for septic to sewer and other strategies that state funding can and should provide to enable restoration of our springs and ensure future drinking water supplies to a growing population. Strengthen, don't weaken environmental laws. The recent attack on those who challenge state and local rulings closes the opportunity for citizens to seek justice on decisions that endanger Florida's environment, wildlife, and water resources. Requiring payment of millions in attorney's fees and costs in failed challenges to harmful development undermines the basic right of all citizens to seek legal redress. Support clean energy. Promote the transition to clean energy future in the Sunshine State with opportunities, not restrictions, on rooftop solar, electric vehicles, and charging equipment, and use of clean renewable energy. Granting rate increases to corporate utilities to fund existing coal-burning plants is short-sighted. Utilities can reduce costs by retiring coal plants and creating a clean energy future. Energy efficiency is a proven low-cost clean energy resource that reduces energy waste and carbon emissions while lowering customer bills. These are just some of the ways that Florida can succeed in creating a bright, sustainable future for all. Thank you for coming today and listening to our concerns. Thank you.
Next up, Rosemary Nile, League of Women Voters, Citrus County.
Good morning, Representative Grow and Senator Ingoglia. My name's Rosemary Nilles. I represent League of Women Voters of Citrus County. We're a nonpartisan organization working to protect voting rights and ensure everyone has access to participation in our democracy. We educate and advocate at local, state, and national levels. We have a few asks regarding voting and elections. The League believes that our democracy is strongest when all eligible citizens participate. To do so, they must be registered to vote. We would ask for reducing the restrictions to groups such as ours in assisting with registration. Also, since the election, all vote-by-mail requests must be made again. We ask that you provide funds to elections officials to educate the voters about these changes. The League believes it's time to close the write-in loophole. In 2024 alone, 2 million registered voters in 21 counties were closed out of voting in universal primaries due to this loophole. We are not proposing eliminating write-in candidates. They have the right to run independently. There's a solution to the write-in loophole presented in 2017-18 by the Constitutional Revision Commission. This constitutional amendment would have let the voters decide whether or not to keep the write-in loophole or whether to close it so that all registered voters can vote in a universal primary. But it was never put on the ballot. So the League is advocating for a revival of this amendment so that voters can make that decision. Also regarding amendments to the Florida Constitution, the League supports the citizen initiative process. The citizen initiative allows voters to place constitutional amendments on the ballot by collecting a sufficient number of signed and validated petitions. We believe citizens' voices should continue to be heard, and citizens should have the opportunity to vote on such amendments. For education, a quick one, we ask that you support public education with adequate funding. The use of public funds to expand private education is impacting our public school budgets. Also, regarding gun violence prevention, and I did give you a handout, firearms are a leading cause of child deaths. Please support stronger child access prevention laws and public education about secure storage. And please support those bills that would require secure firearms storage in vehicles. This will help to reduce the number of firearms stolen from vehicles, many of which are used to commit other crimes. Thank you for taking your time with us this morning, and have a great day.
Next up, Joanne Messina, Democratic Women's Club of Citrus County.
Good morning, Senator Ingoglia and Representative Grow. My name is Joanne Messina. I live in Hernando, Citrus County, and I'm the president of the Democratic Women's Club of Citrus County. I come before you today first to thank you for your service in the Florida Legislature and to share some areas of legislative concern. Public education is the cornerstone of our society. Strong public schools educate the future. Taxpayer dollars need to stay in public schools. Siphoning off public monies to private schools, religious schools, and parents homeschooling children with no accountability is just wrong. We hold public schools to ambitious standards, and yet there are no standards when public money is put in private hands. Citizens need assurance that their taxes are being used wisely. Since choice is so entrenched in Florida, it's time to hold the same standards and metrics to parents and the schools of their choice that public schools are held to. Now let's talk about health insurance. Florida is one of only 10 states that do not participate in the Medicaid expansion program. This program would bring access to health care for more than 1.4 working Floridians. These employed citizens make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but too little for subsidies in the health insurance marketplace. It's called the coverage gap. It's estimated that expanding Medicaid would actually save more than $220 million annually in Florida taxpayer monies. The program is paid for with tax dollars Floridians have already sent to Washington. Additionally, it would create jobs and economic growth. These are things we can all agree on. And we're quite concerned about the recently passed Tackling and Reforming Unlawful Migration Policy, also known as the Trump Act. This piece of legislation will have a negative impact on agriculture, tourism, and the construction industry, of which we rely on migrant workers for. The law takes hundreds of millions of dollars away from local funding and instead, takes dollars away from funding local communities instead of working to address skyrocketing costs in Florida that affect citizens every day. The Trump Act spends $500 million for police to target migrants and facilitate deportations. Immigration is a federal issue. The system may be broken, however, we need comprehensive federal solutions. Of course, violent criminals should be deported. No one is questioning that. As we're all aware, there's already a mechanism for that. Let's imagine how that $500 million could be spent to address the affordable housing and insurance crises and food insecurity in Florida. Thank you for your time.
Next up, Juan Pablo Chavez, Florida Statewide and Partnership Manager, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Juan Pablo Chavez. I'm the State Manager for Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, CSAJ. We are a national crime victims that works to create healing communities and influence public safety policy. We are 14,000 crime survivors in the state of Florida and 200,000 national. And CSAJ advocates for policies that benefit those most impacted by crime and violence. We partner with organizations like Associated Industries of Florida and Christian Coalition. And we thank you for your support in Bill SB 1154 and HB 1241 by Senator Simon and Representative Snyder. Looking ahead, Crime Survivors plans to collaborate with stakeholders to expand the presence of trauma recovery centers across the state and advocates for public policy. Trauma recovery centers are critical in our community because they provide emergency assistance, mental health care, and case management. And let me give you an example. You know, when a crime happens, for example, gun violence, the doctor can remove the bullet, but they cannot remove the pain in our minds. So that's why trauma recovery centers are very important in our community. And we are in an era of mental health epidemic. So that's why it's important, our trauma recovery center. And you might recall our members, we go every year to Tallahassee to advocate for trauma recovery centers. We call Survivors Speak. And we thank you for your time. And also we are planning to work with your delegation, with city and county commissioners, and advocate for trauma recovery centers across the state. And thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you. Next up, Devon Corolla.
Thank you so much. My name is Devon Carollo. I'm chair of the Sierra Club Adventure Coast, but today I speak as a Hernando resident. The list is long, but the good causes are good. Please support Florida State Parks. We've got the bumper sticker, no to development of resorts, golf courses, and other inappropriate uses. Pass the bill. Springs restoration, increase funding significantly for the basin management action plans so we can improve water quality and save our springs, rivers, and manatees from the harmful effects of nutrient loading. Support Florida Forever with generous funding for conservation land acquisition to balance the growth spurt occurring in Hernando and elsewhere statewide. Support the Rural and Family Lands Program to purchase conservation easements that protect environmentally significant rural lands from development. Support clean energy in the Sunshine State with opportunities, not restrictions, on rooftop solar, electric vehicles and chargers, and use of clean, renewable energy by utilities, not coal-burning plants, that will reduce costs and utility bills for us. Strengthen, don't weaken our environmental laws. The recent attack on those who challenge state and local rulings closes the opportunity for citizens speaking and seeking justice on decisions that endanger Florida's environment. Requiring payment of millions in attorney's fees and costs and failed challenges undermines the basic right of all citizens to seek legal redress. Fine. Our Constitution says that all men are created equal, but we are not all the same. Regarding Florida's schools and universities, I urge you to restore respect for and accommodate the diversity of all Floridians. Strive to include everyone's voice and teach tolerance that promotes dignity and justice for all. We are all stronger together. And finally, use public tax dollars to fully fund public, not private schools. Our schools need more funding, not less. Thank you for the chance to see you. And Blaise, I hope to see you in the district. Thank you so much. I even have a bumper sticker for you, Save Our Parks.
So. Okay, next up, Alan Lewis. Alan Lewis. Okay. Sarah Sullivan.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me today. Good news, I'm not asking for any money, but I am asking for a little bit of help. I'd love your support with passing SB 470 in the Senate, and we'll have the House bill number in a couple days. This is a bill that would legalize naturopathy in the state of Florida and reinstate Florida's license for naturopathic doctors. This is personal to me. At 25, I fell sick with debilitating chronic disease. I'm many, many generations Floridian, but I was living in DC at the time, and no MD or specialist in Florida or DC could figure out what was going on. But thankfully, my mom knew about the profession of naturopathic doctors, NDs, and she connected me to one in DC. After many years of good work together, today at 36, I have my health back. Naturopathic doctors are a distinct class of physicians who are licensed in half the country. In Florida, they're no longer licensed. And worse, we're actually worst in the nation because we're one of 2 states where the profession is actually illegal. And this is just a legacy of, frankly, some bad policymaking in 1958, because the Florida State Legislature did license naturopathic doctors until 1958. But when it sunsetted the law, sunsetted the license, it left kind of some bad language on the books that left us kind of in this limbo. NDs do live in our state. Before 1958 and after 1958, they frankly live in terror of the state because since 1958, the state's been rather punitive to naturopathic doctors. This became, and they practice legally under other monikers like health coach, but I think we'd all agree it'd be better to not have a medical profession in the shadows. So why don't we just call a spade and, and let this profession do its job? And it became personal to me yet again, because about 18 months ago, I met and fell in love with the love of my life, who you'll hear from next, who just happened to be an ND. He's a fully licensed ND in the state of Washington, where he has a beautiful practice and helps lots of patients. He was in medical school for 6 years at an accredited medical school, like everyone who has an ND license. He has the $400,000 in medical school debt to prove it. And when he said when we were deciding where to live together, since we were a continent apart, he said, "Baby, the only thing they teach you in medical school about this is don't move to Florida." And I said, I know, but I'm very alluring, and come here and we'll see what we can do about that. So my question to you is, at a time when so many Floridians are sick, we have, frankly, a MAHA mandate in the country right now and a physician-provider gap across the state, why don't we bring some doctors out of the shadows who would really like to do right by Floridians and help get more people healthy again in our state? You'll hear from a few others, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
The only question I have is I have two people speaking next. I just want to make sure I know which one the love of your life is, because you said they were coming up
In
next.
this case, it's the gentleman, Dr. Pevin.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Kai Pevin, welcome, love of her life.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Kind of following that, what I would love to do is give you a little bit more context. Naturopathic doctors, we go to 4-year Department of Health accredited medical programs where we're trained as primary care physicians in the conventional allopathic system. So we learn pharmacology, we learn some surgical techniques, we learn how to diagnose and treat disease. But we also receive training in alternative therapies and ways to really promote health, to promote the restoration of health, which is more than simply treating disease. We're licensed in approximately half the country. Each state does have its own scope, but in the state of Washington, where I am currently actively licensed, we are licensed as primary care physicians. We have a substantial subscription authority, and we're accepted by all of the major health insurance companies in Washington. I came here to Florida for family, which is the story for many of my colleagues, is they come here for family and, knowing that we are severely limited in our ability to practice here in Florida. I still maintain my practice in Seattle. I run my clinic there, and I do go back there to see patients. But I am planning to start a practice here. And for the folks here that know about naturopathic medicine, they often know about it because, maybe they came here from another state where naturopathic medicine was legal, and they want those services. They want that kind of medicine. And for us, we're in somewhat of a bind because either we have to tell them that, we can't do a lot of the things that they really want and need from us, or it's illegal, or we find ourselves skirting the law. And that's really not a choice that any of us want to be making. And that's not an option that we want to be giving patients. I believe that there are, especially after the last several years, there are more and more people looking for alternatives to the conventional system. And right now, for most people, their options are either the conventional system, their primary care doctor, who they may or may not be very satisfied with, or folks who don't have any formal medical training. And NDs really are one of the professions that can provide that bridge, because of course there's a place for everyone along the spectrum of healthcare providers, but I would really love the opportunity to be able to serve in my full capacity. So I think you'll be hearing from more of us, and also up in Tallahassee. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Cynthia James. So Cynthia is the last speaker I have a card for. Is there anyone else who is looking to speak before the delegation? Please come up and fill out a card so we can get you. What was the name? Do we have a card? You're right. Never mind. You are recognized.
Gentlemen, I have 3 points in support of passing this bill so that this fleet of amazing doctors and doctors-to-be can serve here in this state and hopefully everywhere in our country. The first is we all know someone that has had a tragic disease or is experiencing it. And when someone you love is suffering, you want everything available for them. This is an avenue to bring that kind of health in a deeply needed way and to bring us exactly what we need. The second point is that I've personally received this treatment, and at 60 years old, I now don't need any pharmaceutical medications, and I don't have joint pain for the first time in my life. And that's extraordinary. And I'm grateful for the medical professions, but I'm grateful for an addition to that because I'm someone that has huge side effects with that. And I was also a former corporate litigation attorney. So when I go to a new kind of practitioner, I always want to see what their malpractice premiums are, because that will show you whether they're doing, whether there's an issue or not. NDs have $3,000, their yearly premiums are $3,000 to $8,000 a year in other states. If there was a real harm from these groups, that would be reflected in the insurance premiums, which it's not. And that's something that I've always used as a measurement of whether I would seek care. And the third point I want to make is a spiritual one. You began this session with such a powerful prayer. I felt it. I think we all felt it. And this is a divine answer to prayers. Aren't we praying for people that they feel better? And when these awful things happen, that there was support. So I'll conclude with the quick story of the devout man and the flood. The flood waters were rising and was praying for the Lord for help. And a canoe came and he said, no, the Lord will save me. And the motorboat and the helicopter, and then he passed and said, Lord, why didn't you save me? He said, well, I sent you a canoe, a motorboat, and a helicopter. We are being sent that beautiful practitioner who is an amazing human being who I received practice healing from in Seattle, and so many more that want to help. I pray we have the courage, the strength, and the wisdom to bring this to Floridians and so many who travel here, that they can get support when they have issues when they're here. Thank you very much, and may we all be blessed with what we need.
Thank you. And Linda Etheridge. Sorry for the confusion, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Senator, Representative, for having me. I want to speak about criminal justice reform for the families. I'm short. Families need to have access to visitation when their loved one is hospitalized. Back in 2020, I was supposed to get a call from John, but didn't, so I called the facility the next day and was advised he was hospitalized, that he blacked out and was in the hospital. A doctor called me, this was near the Memorial Day weekend, to ask permission to operate on him as he was not conscious. He advised it was a serious operation on him as he was not, it was a serious 7-hour operation, and would call me when completed. Needless to say, I was a nervous wreck and prayed a large part of the working night. In the morning, no call came, so I used the redial from the hospital number, and the doctor answered the phone astonished that I had the number. Explaining my reason for calling, he explained that John was okay and in ICU, but was not out of the woods yet, so I did some more praying. My treatment as a family member, wife, was less than desirable in that I could not visit and had to get approval for a telephone conversation, thanks to Florida Care's Denise Rock writing a letter to the warden. In conclusion, an ombudsman office would help in this process. There is legislation that passed at the federal level last year and would be happy to provide and would ask that one of you sponsor this bill this session. We have the bill in drafting, and you still need to sponsor it. I have the paperwork here, or you can look at it digitally on the computer. Thank you for your time. Would you like the paperwork, or you want to?
You can give it to our
Okay.
RAs. Yes, ma'am.
Well, this is your paperwork. Thank you.
Is there anybody else come to speak before the delegation? All right, hearing none. Closing remarks, Representative Grow.
Thank you, Senator. You guys notice he gets 3 people, I get 2, right? So, no, I just had a couple remarks. One, it's actually uncomfortable sitting up here because there's so many incredible opportunities to do things to change people's lives in our communities. And I hope you know that the senator nor I take that lightly. The issue obviously is we can't fund everything. And we've been told by not just our governor and the Senate president and the Speaker of the House that, you know, we need to be really cautious of what we're doing with our funding. Appropriations asks have grown from a little over 200 million to about 1.3 billion in just the last 4 or 5 years. So it's a tough thing to do. But the one thing that the senator and I have to do is when we go to Tallahassee and we look for appropriations, we have to fight. And the input that we get from you at this meeting is very helpful. The other thing I'll say, after spending the last couple of weeks up in Tallahassee, I mean, there's important work to do that benefit the members of our district and of our state. And they're not easy decisions. Someone brought up immigration law. You know, the issue that we've had with illegal aliens in our state is the pressure they put on our communities. It's the crime, it's our schools, it's our hospitals. You know, something has to be done. We can't continue to let that happen. But we also have to be people about it, right? We have to be compassionate about it. But, you know, the crime, I had the opportunity when I was at the inauguration for President Trump to meet Tom Homan, and I can tell you the focus is on criminal activity. The focus is on people who've broken the laws, and that list is over 700,000 people throughout the country that are on that list. So we need to make sure we're doing what we can to support that. It's not an easy item to tackle, but it is one that we have to tackle. As a dad of 4 daughters and a beautiful wife, you know, I want our communities to be safe. I want our sheriff's department to have the resources that they need to keep us safe. The comment was made about the parks. I think the senator and I are both very in favor of the parks. I know we're in favor of conservation. The amount of money that the state has provided on our first magnitude springs, whether it be the Rainbow River, the Homosassa River, or the Crystal River, that money's been very well spent, and the work that's being done is showing great results, and I don't believe there'll be an issue continuing getting that funding done. So we're excited about that. We talked about school choice. We're very fortunate here. We have a great school system. The entire state can't say that. So I'm totally in favor of school choice because I think parents need to make those decisions. But if our schools are doing what they need to do, like Dr. Hebert and his school board here does, then we have a great opportunity for a public education, just like the one I got here at Inverness Primary, Inverness Middle, and Citrus High School. So I appreciate that, but that's not that way across the state. So I do support school choice. I'm excited about the upcoming session. I'm excited about the opportunity to represent my community and my state. So thank you so much for being here today. For those of you who stuck here to the end, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. So we're going to give some closing remarks on some of the things that I'm working on in Tallahassee. I think it's important that you guys know this and give you some updates on some of probably the biggest issues that we're facing in the state. But let us not forget, after that, we do have to pick a new vice chair, chair and vice chair. And when I mean chair and vice chair, I mean chair and vice chair. Many people know that affordable housing is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. And when we start thinking about housing, we start thinking about housing payments, because that's the affordability of it. And your housing payments are made out of principal and interest, which are your mortgage payment. We cannot do much in terms of interest payments at the state level. And the price of housing is what it is. But there are things that we can do to help with insurance and help with taxes. So the first thing is, let's talk briefly about taxes. We're in an environment right now where property taxes have been yet again skyrocketing, similar to what we have seen in 05, 06, 07, and 08. Like it or not, but the value of your home dictates the amount of property taxes that you pay. And when we have an environment, especially since 2020 with COVID coming in, we've had property values skyrocket. With that, taxes skyrocket. And that is one of the drivers of people not being able to afford homes. So with that, if we look back at the homestead exemption and what that was meant to do in the past, so homestead exemption, when it was introduced, the $25,000 homestead exemption, that represented about a third of your property value. So basically what it ensured was a third of your taxable value was exempt from taxation, and they would exempt, and then they would tax, the remaining 67%. That's basically how it worked. If you remember back in 2009, 2010, there was a big fight over property tax relief. Then Speaker of the House, Florida House Marco Rubio, famously fought with then Republican turned independent turned Democrat turned whatever, Governor Charlie Crist, over property tax relief and reform. And what we got was an additional homestead exemption, but exempted the school taxes out of that. So where we are right now, it's unfortunate, but our current homestead exemption with that additional homestead exemption represents using the median value about 10% exempted, and governments are taxing the remaining 90%. So constituents are feeling this, and they are feeling it big time. It's probably the second biggest issue that I hear on a daily basis outside of homeowners insurance. So want to let you know that I have proposed a constitutional amendment that will replace our current system with one $75,000 property tax exemption that will be forever indexed with inflation. So it will, and that represents about it's not 33% as it was, but it's going to represent about 23%, but roughly about a quarter of your property will be exempt from taxation. That will be probably one of the largest property tax cuts in the history of the state of Florida. And I think it is high time that we do that. Now, year one would start off at 75,000 and be indexed. So it may be 77,000 after that, maybe 78,000 it will be indexed every year towards inflation. So it's one of the things that I'm going to be fighting for is from property tax relief / reform. It is much needed. Quite frankly, local governments have taken in the windfall over the last 4 years, and it's about time that we give some of this money back to the taxpayer. That's just my belief. That's where I'm at on this. Regarding insurance, we reformed, the first thing I want everyone to understand, and I explain this when I'm in groups, is the largest jump that people are having in their homeowners insurance policy is because their property values have gone up. So if you owned a $200,000 home in 2019, pre-COVID, and now your home in 2025 is worth $400,000, your replacement cost to replace that home has doubled. So it only makes sense that your homeowner's insurance is going to jump as well, probably double. But there were also a lot of bad actors in the system, bad actors on all sides, insurance companies, unscrupulous trial lawyers, you had adjusters. There was a lot of people who were using the system for their own benefit, and it was driving up our costs. What we have seen over the past couple of years is a bending of the cost curve down. I have told everyone, if you've heard me on the radio locally, I said these reforms will work. They will continue to work. It's just going to take time to work through the system because there are lawsuits that were previously filed. Homeowners insurance policies, your HO3 policies are one-year contracts. You may not know, but insurance companies actually get insurance for the insurance, which is called reinsurance. Those rates and those are contracts that are usually done in a certain amount of time. So what we've seen is a lot more, we've seen stabilization of the market, and we've seen a lot of companies file rate decreases. A lot of them are filing no increases, so we're actually starting to see the cost curve. And the governor announced, I believe on Tuesday, that Citizens is reducing their homeowners insurance policies on average by about 6%. So we are going to continue to see this cost curve. But another thing that I just want to put on everyone's radar is the effect of hurricanes and how hurricanes affect homeowners insurance rates. When insurance companies file their rate filings, they are anticipating the amount of losses that they're going to have, and they pass that on to everyone in a form of rates. So I want us all to think back to the 70s, the 80s, and 90s when everyone started moving to the state of Florida. Everyone started building homes on the coast and on the riverbeds. And when they were built to no hurricane standards or 110-mile-an-hour hurricane standards, and they were built at sea level. So as a builder, every time a hurricane comes through, I go to the coasts and I survey all the damage. And what an amazing thing I saw, that homes that were built to today's values, today's hurricane standards and today's elevation standards were largely unscathed. And we caught the brunt of a lot of these hurricanes. Almost all of the damage exclusively was done to older homes built to lower hurricane standards that are built at ground level. And that represents an amazing amount of money that is put out by local governments, state governments, and federal government in form of FEMA in order to put these communities back. And what we do is we go through this vicious cycle of every time. So we fix the communities, we fix the homes, we spend all this money, local governments spend the money, state governments spend the money, hoping we're going to get reimbursed by FEMA. Sometimes I heard that the oldest reimbursement claim out there right now is still from 2017 for a local government. 8 years later, they're still waiting to get reimbursed. So it becomes a huge drain. So we fix these communities and then we build the same way in the same place, and we go through this vicious cycle where taxpayer dollars, your dollars, remember it's not government's money, it's your money, are continually used to do this. And I think we need to do something in terms of incentivizing local governments and state governments to help those properties get them out of the way of harm. So if you have an older home, let's say it's 1,300 square foot home on the coast, and it's worth $200,000 right now, and let's say you've lived in it a while and you're paying $1,300 a year in homes taxes because you have Save Our Homes cap on there. And let's say you own it free and clear. Most likely you don't even have insurance on that property. Insurance on that property would probably be $20,000, $25,000, so you're not even paying into the system. Hurricane comes, damages the property, build in the same place. I personally, along with the governor and along with Director Kevin Guthrie, DEM, says that we need to start incentivizing people to start building up, harden their homes, and get them out of harm's way. Because a large portion of insurance policies are dictated on what the losses are going to be. We very rarely ever think about mitigating the losses. So if we have insurance companies and local governments lose less on hurricanes, when hurricanes pass through, the biggest beneficiary of that are going to be the policyholders. So we have a constitutional amendment that we are proposing along with some other outside-the-box proposals that are going to allow people in those communities to build up, build newer, and save a lot of money. Because if you have that home that's worth $200,000, if you were to put it on stilts, raise it, if you were to build to today's standards, by the time you're done, you might cost you another $200,000, and the property would be worth $400,000, maybe $500,000. But here's the kicker, is that if you have that home that's worth $200,000 and you raise it and you harden it and make it hurricane-proof, where everyone is going to save money in the form of insurance premiums, local governments will reassess your house at a different tax rate. So you could be paying $1,300. By the time you're done, it could be $7,000. So the program that we are going to introduce in terms of an amendment will say that if you do that, your property taxes are going to be frozen at the $1,300 level for 20 years to help offset the costs. Aspirationally, I think the state needs to be in a place where the next generation, it's not going to be done in 10 years, not going to be done in 20 years, it'll probably be 30 years down the road, where we are so hardened on the coast and in the riverbeds that when storms come through, we go through with minimal damage. I think that's where we need to be. If we're able to do that, you will see insurance policies drop precipitously. Still going to go up because your property values are going to go up every year. But I think there's a role for state governments and local governments to help people along that way. So those are the issues, big issues that I'm working on this year. Property taxes, insurance overall to get people's housing payments down. It's a lofty goal, but I think the legislature is going to be able to tackle a lot of that. So with that, let's move into the next part, and I will be more than happy to nominate J.J. Grow as the chair of the next year's 2026 Legislative Delegation. So you have to second it anyway.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Show it passes. Chair Grow, and let's do the nomination for the vice chair of the delegation.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Senator Blaise Ingoglia as the vice chair of the delegation.
I don't know if I want it. I'll be more than happy to accept. So vice chair for the 2026 nomination for Senator Ingoglia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Show that carried. We have our chair and our vice chair for the next. Is there any other business before the committee? Showing none, Representative J.J. Grow moves that we adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.